We apologize for this brief interruption in the show. As many of you likely know, the Higher Standard podcast is officially sponsored by Transcend Company. Transcend has been my longtime provider for both testosterone and peptide therapies, but they offer so much more. Whether you're interested in health, wellness, or longevity, it all begins with you getting your blood work done. A lab draw will help you get the numbers and establish your baseline. You can go to transcendcompany.com/THSP. That's transcendcompany.com/THSP. Or you can click the link in the show notes on any streaming platform and on YouTube. Fill out your information, and one of the representatives will contact you to get your journey started today. Now back to the show. The show.
Absolutely.
Before and after.
The Higher Standard, sponsored by Brazzers.
You know you guys are reaching when that's what you guys are sponsorship.
I know, right? We haven't gotten there yet. Yeah. Thanks for coming down, man. Shit.
Yeah. It's always a good time seeing you guys.
We're not giving you an intro. Everybody knows who you are. Get the fuck out of here.
These are all my listeners anyways. Not
They are really all your listeners. I literally got an email yesterday from somebody saying, oh, God, I wish you and Adam were going to do a show at some point together again. And I'm like, well, actually.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he's coming tomorrow.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's
shout
great.
out to Sabrina.
I actually get a lot of feedback from people that I've sent over here that have just said, oh, man, I love Chris. I'm so glad you turned me on that way. So, no, you guys have been my go-to. Although I have to admit, I am quite a bit behind on the show. Like, I fell off probably about a month ago, well, maybe a month and a half ago or so. And then, of course, we were talking off air of the whirlwind that I had. So I was actually just starting to get caught back up. So I was listening to the most recent episode that you guys had just done. So I'm getting back on that, but I'm all over the place.
So just to clarify, they love Chris.
Yeah. It's not that they don't love you. It's just that there's more of me to love.
No, I think I'm pretty sure Chris is like me on my show, which is like he's the polarizing one. You're like Justin on our show, where everybody likes you. Like
that's a wildly good compliment. I'm gonna take that all day.
Yeah, everybody likes you because Chris is like an asshole, and so you either love him or you probably hate him. So
Not like my friend. Yeah. I am. Yeah. And I will say the corollary to Justin's pretty strong because he also does the I'm an amazing dad routine on the show all the time. Yeah. Which Saied, you are an amazing dad, but I mean, let's be honest.
I mean, do you get a lot of hate like as much as probably I do? Do you or no?
Oh yeah,
I get a lot of hate.
Dude, there was a guy on one of your show who just came after me because like fitness and money are so polarizing to people. That people have like this adopted mentality when it comes to their health and fitness.
Yeah.
They have the exact same thing when it comes to their finances, and people will lose their mind if they truly believe something contrary to what you're saying.
Yeah. No, you're right.
And it happens all the time where you'll say something that might be polarizing on some level just because you want to have an opinion about something, and people will literally fight. They'll go, I had a guy the other day come at us in the DMs of one of our posts, and then actually on the one of our posts just challenging the data. And I'm like, dude, I was reading a quote from Muhammad Al-Rain, who's like one of the better economists in the world. If you got a problem, go DM him. Like, send him a message.
Yeah. You know, I remind myself, though, that it's funny because that same stuff that we get this, you get this one person who gets all upset or whatever online, and then it makes you like, oh, man, was I too harsh or should have been more like this? And it's like, nah, fuck that. And you know what it really, this has like been solidified for me. I'm watching Fight Inc. on Roku, which is like the behind the scenes of UFC. And just recently, an episode on there, they were talking about Strickland. Have you guys been paying attention to Strickland?
I haven't.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't watched him get interviewed, I mean, that guy says the most outlandish, crazy, borderline crazy shit, but he's loved. And he's going viral. And you have to ask yourself, he is so offensive, he's so rude. But what is it about him? Because he gets just as much hate, if not more, but he's also loved by so many people. And I think what it is I think we're all, even if you don't like everything he says, or you're like, and you don't agree with it, there is a percentage of people, which I think are the majority, are at least drawn to authenticity, to being real. And we live in this era of fake and overproduced and edited that you're probably better off being hated for coming off a certain way if it's being yourself, right? If you're just being your authentic self, and who gives a fuck, this certain amount of people are just not going to like you or whatever like that, you're still better off because the people are thirsty, especially now more than ever, for real people. Even if I agree with you or not, or I hate you for whatever opinions that you have, It's like, yeah, but at least I know he's real. At least I know he's not trying to appease me or say all the right things. So I think
It's
you're
because
winning.
so many people have an alternative agenda. And I keep telling people in the financial world, a lot of what you're seeing right now you think is authentic. There's a motivation that people aren't considering. The November 5th, 2024 election's coming up.
Yeah.
So they go, oh, the Democrats are saying this, or oh, the Republicans are saying that, or oh, somebody in the financial world is saying this, and they don't realize that there's a long-term play there. It might seem authentic, but you have to look behind the agenda. And I think what throws people off so much is even with people who come off authentic, they look for the agenda even when there isn't one.
Yeah.
Like a classic example, I used to do the same thing. I would judge like Alex Hormozy online.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, this guy is just trying to sell you something. And I would look for the agenda, and I realize, oh my God, like I'm being a terrible human being.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the things that I think people are critical of me of doing now that I'm on this side of the table.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, it's that easy to judge somebody because you have to like search for that agenda. Even people who are originally authentic.
Yeah.
People buy in over time.
Yeah. I have a rule now because I've learned my lesson so many times of being wrong. That if somebody asks me about somebody, for example, Alex Hormozy is an example. We have a lot of acquaintances. We've missed each other multiple times, linking up. I know there's lots of people that love him. I know there's a portion of people that don't like him. And when somebody asks me about someone like that now, I reserve my opinion until I sit in a room with you because more often than not, this personality who I think I hate or I don't like or is this person that I'm not going to get along with, I actually end up liking or loving a lot of time. Or this person who I think is so awesome and so amazing, and then I get them in person, I'm like, oh, they suck. So like now I've really trained myself when asked about another influencer, famous person, whatever you want to call them, what do I think? I don't know. If I haven't had him in my studio or we haven't met or had lunch or actually talked in person, I reserve judgment because it's such a mixed bag of what you're going to get in this social media world because more often than not, I'm wrong about what I think I'm going to see or get when I get someone in person. And some of the most amazing people online that I admired, when I get them in front of me in person, I find out that it was just this facade or this spiel that they've rehearsed, and they're so good at it. They've rehearsed it so many times that it just, it sounds so good. And I like them so much. And then you meet them, they're like, oh, it's an actor.
It's a routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that.
Let me ask you a random question.
Okay.
Bear with me. You guys have been doing Mind Pump now for almost 10 years.
January, 10 years.
Does it feel like 10 years?
It doesn't. It flew by really, really fast.
It's amazing how fast 10 years moves, right?
That's so the fastest ever for me because it is now officially the thing that I've done longer than anything else. That's what's weird for me to say is that it still feels like so much of it's in infancy for me still. There's so much more to accomplish and do within the businesses. And so it doesn't feel like I've been doing it forever. I remember when I worked for 24 Hour Fitness for 8 years, that felt like a lifetime. This doesn't feel like that. It's like, here I am 10 years and I feel like, oh man, we're barely getting going on it. But it's now I've done this longer than I've done anything else consistently before in my life.
Yeah. And that to me, I'm in the same place. I mean, we started the bank 17 years ago.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. And I never thought it was going to last more than 3 to 5 years, frankly. I thought 3 to 5 years, you have an exit strategy, you have all these grand delusions in your head of what this is going to look like when the end comes, and the end never comes. Do you feel like you guys are influencers now in the traditional sense, or do you feel like you're just how do you? Look, you just did an event in Vegas. Lots of people came to see you guys.
Yeah, but I fucking hate that word.
Okay, but so then what do you see yourself as when you look in the mirror?
I don't
Besides sexy, obviously.
Yes,
I mean, I don't want to do the obvious thing.
Well, so first of all, like, I guess we have to define what is an influencer and like whoever fucking made that word up and like what is it that encompasses that. One of the things that I think about when I see an influencer is it's somebody who makes a living off of their ability to influence others to buy the shit that they're into. And I don't need that. So much so that I make it a point to not be active on social media on a regular basis. And I think that if you're an influencer, your life revolves around your daily activities and what you need. Like you have to be engaging the audience on social media on a regular basis because you influence people to buy products and to buy things. And you need to do that in order for you to survive financially. And a lot of these influencers are really good at that. They're very likable. They've got great personalities, or maybe they drop knowledge on you and you follow their lives and they influence you to buy these things that they're into, and that's how they make a living. I don't see myself as that because I can turn my Instagram off and so can all my partners and the business still goes. So that's why I don't like influencer. Like, I don't want to be known as like somebody who's influencing people to buy something or do something. So I don't know what, I guess I've gotten more comfortable with being called a podcaster.
I think that undersells it though, because you guys are doing so much more, right? Wouldn't media at this point be more accurate? I mean, you guys.
Well, so if someone like like the driver today, right?
Yeah.
Eventually they always out like, what do you do? I tell you know, people are wondering what the fuck do you do, guy? I tell people that I own a fitness media company. That's how I would answer somebody, and it's taken me a long time to figure that out. Like, I didn't know what to say forever, because when it was tiny and nobody was paying attention, it sounds really grand to say we have a media company
but it's not tiny anymore.
Well, no,
a lot of people are paying attention.
I think that's why I feel comfortable with saying that now, that I can back it up with all the things that are built around this, like a media company would have. It's got an advertising arm, it's got an employee and staffing and 401k and benefits, and it's got all this investing. It's got a lot, right? So now I feel comfortable with that. Early on, I used to say podcaster, and nobody knew what the fuck a podcaster was. So I probably, the thing I felt most comfortable with saying was that I'm a fitness trainer. I've been a fitness trainer by trade for a very long time, and I've utilized the social media world to convey our message or share our journey, our personal journey, and our journeys that we share with our clients. But I just don't like the influencer term or name. And I also would rather, like, I care even more about being known for my business acumen than I care about even being known as a great trainer. I was a pretty good trainer. What I take the most pride in within the four of us that have ran this business is that. So I would think, if, like, back to your in the mirror and I'm looking at myself like, you're a businessman. That's what I probably say. I'd like to think that I'm a businessman, right? Like, I like business. I like talking business. I'm interested in all the business of what we do, even more so than I'm interested in the clients and training and all that stuff, which is what I originally got into. And what, like, I'd say Sal is more into, like, the science and the training aspect. Justin also the training aspect of what we do. I appreciate the business side of what we do probably the most.
I think that's why we get along, to be honest with you.
I think so too.
That was the biggest mental transition for me when I realized that the beginnings of the business that I was in was left behind to understand the operational business of the kind of the macro 30,000 foot elevation, because it's a different skill set.
Yeah.
When you're running a larger franchise, a larger business, and there's so many things, at some point you guys had to step away from we're going to make content and start thinking of we're going to grow a larger media business, right?
Yeah. No, I think even early on, I think we all did saw that and wanted to do that. What's cool was that there was that, and then another reason why I like run from the word influencer as much as I can is, like, there was never a point where we ever thought, like, let's get famous on social media so we can make, like, that was never. In fact, even when we were, like, we always wanted to build a good business, and we knew that the mediums that were being used, YouTube, Instagram, podcasting at the time, there are, say, competitors, the other people that were communicating fitness, we knew there was an opportunity to do it better than anybody else. And so we were going to use those mediums to provide better information. And we knew that we could build a business from that. That was always the plan and the desired outcome. And with that, none of us wanted fame. None of us wanted attention. In fact, the big joke was this last week when I was out with my wife, right? This is the first time ever on the show that I missed a week of podcasting. And so everybody's like, where's Adam? What happened to Adam? And, I got on the YouTube channel and was like, this was the best show ever without Adam. And, like, I was trolling the guys by saying stuff like that, right? And I came back and was like, hey, man, I heard people like the show without me. And Sal's like, get the fuck out of here. That was you on there trolling us. Like, he's like, you'd be so quick to drop the show. And people always think that's crazy because they're like, don't you love that? Or, do you ever get upset that Sal talks more? It's like, dude, that part of it is like the attention and the camera and all that stuff. I don't thrive or like that at all. Like I like the business side, and so I'd be so quick to give up the fame or the attention that we've garnered from the podcast if I have a successful business. And so the plan was always to build a company that was successful enough to stand on its own. That even though we use all of these mediums, we didn't necessarily need it to sustain it. And I think we've arrived to where we don't need it. It obviously supports and helps it, but it's now grown to a size where there's enough word of mouth and people sharing. I mean, on average, we do between 250 and 300 programs a day on average. Wow. There's some days we sell 500, 800 programs, but we average 250 to 300 individual programs a day. Of the 250 and 300 programs we sell a day, 100 to 150 of them are first-time purchases. So every day I'm onboarding 100 new customers that have decided that they're going to try our programs out for the first time. And as long as we deliver on that, and the back end service, customer service side, and the team that I have supporting these people that are going through these programs, and the community that we built, and then the content that we have to support those people as they go through that journey, as long as that is continued to elevate, which we've tried to do over this last decade, I don't believe I need any of the other stuff. I think that it's there. Now, again, obviously, the big podcast helps that number continue, but I do think that we accomplished the first real big thing that we needed to do, which was deliver something of such great value that people were going to go share with other people.
So, Adam, I had a question for you. So,
yeah.
I mean, you've built this business into what
feels
it is
like God's
today.
talking to me.
Right?
I was like,
it's very weird.
Yes,
right?
Jesus. Yes.
Yes, chubby Jesus.
You're welcome. Yes, my child. I mean, you and the team have grown the business to what it is today, and obviously, when you first started out in this space, it's nothing that any of you knew exactly how to do, or you could see how it was actually going to play out. How did you guys all get comfortable with the idea and to ask the uncomfortable questions, or going to some of your mentors and just knowing, oh, look, I don't know what I don't know. Can you help me? Like, how did you plan this out and build it out?
You know what's funny? I actually think, and I think you guys fall in this category too, I actually think there's a massive advantage to guys and girls that are 35, 40 and above entering in this social media space. That might sound counter, right, to what the narrative is. Because what was difficult for all of us was like, how does this camera turn on, or how do I download this Instagram thing? Like, so we had a learning curve of figuring out how it works. But you know what the advantage that we had was actually what you just said is like not really true. Like I did know all this stuff. Like I knew the rules of business. I knew the rules of relationships. I knew the rules of developing a great product. I knew the rules of over servicing and over delivering on something. I knew those rules. That's business 101. And that's what served us when we built brick and mortar gyms and other businesses that we were in before all this social media stuff hit. And I think the advantage that we have is that those rules still apply. They're just different the way you apply them in these mediums. And I think a lot of people get away with not working on those rules because they can instantly, like if you did a viral video because you're half naked, or you did something funny or trendy, and now you have 1 million eyeballs on you, all you need is 0.5% conversion and you're a millionaire. And it's like, okay, well, does that mean you built a really good business, or is that just like kind of by chance that, you know, there was 0.5% of idiots that were willing to purchase whatever said thing is that you're pushing and serving? And so we have a lot of these instant or overnight millionaires in the social media world. By the way, those same people are out there selling courses to all these other idiots that think that like, oh, they know what they're doing, I should learn from them. But really, the rules of business haven't changed that much. And so I do believe that, I believe wholeheartedly, I had every intent to build this where it's at and much bigger than where it's at right now. And I knew that the rules of business still applied. What I had to figure out was like, how does that look in now in the Instagram and Facebook world and YouTube and how do I use these new tools to scale something? And that's what's cool, is that these tools offer us the ability to scale to a much larger size than if you had the best brick and mortar store in your town. So there's a huge advantage to scalability, but the same original rules of what made that brick and mortar very successful in a small town and made it into, a 6-figure business back in the day, say 20, 30 years ago, are the same rules that apply today. They just look a little bit different. And I think that a lot of people make a mistake to think it's so much different. It's actually really not. And they get so caught up in all the quick ways to get to that 1 million followers or get 1 million eyeballs. I was actually always slow to that. People used to say, "Oh man, wouldn't it be great if you guys got on Joe Rogan?" I used to say, "No, that's a terrible idea." Why? Well, because 7 years ago, I didn't have the infrastructure. I didn't have the team. I didn't have the vision for what happens, Adam, when 1 million people all of a sudden say they want something from you. Like, are you going to be able to capture and to service and to take care and over-deliver on those people? And I knew I couldn't. So when people thought I was crazy when I'd say things like that, like, no, I don't want to be on Joe Rogan. They're like, no, you don't want to be on Joe Rogan. It's the biggest guy in the world. It would blow your business. No, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't. Not if you don't have a good product. Not if you have a good way to service it. Not if you have a good team. I was still that part I was figuring out. And the same rules apply of like, oh, I think this is a good idea. Let me go try it. You know, one of my favorite interviews we ever did
was with me, right?
It was you.
Okay.
Second favorite, I meant to say.
Second favorite. Right.
Second favorite interview we ever did was Mark Randolph, who's the co-founder of Netflix.
Oh, wow.
Told one of the greatest stories. If you guys never heard that interview, you should go back and listen to that interview.
I don't think I heard that one.
It's a long time ago. It was great. One of my favorite. And he tells this story. I love this story he tells. And he's talking about like some of the best entrepreneurs. It had everything to do with speed to test their theory, right? How fast, like every entrepreneur has ideas, right? I've never met an entrepreneur who calls himself an entrepreneur and doesn't have ideas. They all got fucking ideas. But the good ones or the great ones are the ones that can test their ideas and their theories as fast as they can to find out how shitty of an idea it was or how great of an idea it was. Spend as little money as they can, test their theory as fast as they can to find out if their hypothesis is right or not. He tells this story, right? He helps out all these entrepreneurs with like their business ideas. And this girl comes to him with this brilliant idea. She's in college. And she wants to basically become the not Uber. What is like a famous sharing app that we have? She basically wants to share her high-end clothes, right? Like how many girls you guys know that have like 6 pair of Louis Vuittons, 5 different purses, like right? And those purses on high heels maybe come out once every 2 or 3 months.
Yep.
And so she has this brilliant idea of what if I create this app where I allow all these girls and guys to be able to share their high-end clothes with each other. You basically can lease and share between. Brilliant idea. Really,
They do
really.
the watches now too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Brilliant. So brilliant concept, right? And so she's like, and so I'm looking into an app developer and I'm trying to do this. And so I need to raise this much money to get this paid for. And I think I need a place to hold and store and warehouse and this. And he's like, whoa. He's like, why are you doing all that? He's like, do you have a Sharpie and a piece of paper? And she's like, yeah, I'm in college. It's on my desk. He's like, go get it right now. So she runs over, she gets it. He goes, what I want you to do is I want you to write on there, do you want to borrow my Louis Vuitton shoes? And go stick it to your dorm room. And then call me when people start knocking on your door. And his point he makes there is he's like, so what you're going to find out is, does anybody knock? Because if nobody knocks, maybe your idea sucks. And you didn't go build a $500,000 app to figure that idea out.
Yep.
And let's say you do get knocked on and people start knocking like crazy. Like, yeah, and you right away have to loan out all of your clothes. You start to learn things like, oh, wow, I'm going to need way more inventory to even give the supply to the demand that I have of people that want to borrow stuff. Or, oh, wow, it's really hard to match people up with sizes. That's a problem I got to solve. Oh, shit, some people don't return it in time like they said they're going to return it. I'm going to have to solve that problem. Oh, shit, some people return it damaged. What do I do with that? He goes, you start learning all that way before you took out a $500,000 loan to go get this app. And so I love that piece of advice because I've built every business that I've built with that concept of, okay, we all got great ideas. Let's go test that theory. Let's not overthink the copy, the design, the app behind it. Let's just go figure out the fastest, the cheapest way I can go test my hypothesis. And I'm going to learn along the way where my problems, where my pitfalls are, if it's even a good idea, how expensive is it going to get, And then we can go from there. And we've built the entire media company and all the arms and going on 5 companies now underneath it with that concept, with that idea of we got lots of ideas. How quickly can we test our hypothesis and learn if it's a great idea or not, and where are the challenges to be? And we don't overthink that. And I'm lucky and blessed that I have 3 partners that operate the same way.
This is why, too, a lot of really intelligent entrepreneurs never really get the success that people that might be slightly less intelligent get by just being more cavalier and willing to try and fail and try and fail and try and fail, is they don't have this paralysis by analysis. They're not getting stuck in this, okay, I got to make this thing totally perfect before I go to market. That's also why hobbies tend to be really, really good businesses for people, because they love it, they chase it, they run it down, and it grows over time, as opposed to just trying to design a product and just push it out.
This has been part of my secret sauce or formula to my success since I was a kid. When I was 22 years old, I read a book one time, and it like forever changed my mindset around this. And I can't remember the name of the book, so forgive me, but in the book, it talked about the average millionaire or the average entrepreneur that built a multi-million-dollar business had failed at 9 other businesses before they had that one successful. Here I am at 22 years old. I've done my little lawn mowing business and my car detailing business by then. And I'm like, in my head, I think I'm going to be a millionaire soon. I'm going, oh, fuck. I've only got 2 failures under my belt. I got 7 more to go. And what I also know about myself, because I was never the most athletic guy. I was always the guy that had to practice extra longer or do more work.
Really?
Oh yeah, I was not gifted. I loved sports and I would consider myself an athlete, but I wasn't gifted at all. I was the guy who
I describe myself the same way.
Okay.
I was very awkward. I had to like grow physically.
Yes, and so those I'm grateful for that, because it built this spirit in me of like, oh, I know I'm not as good as this guy, but I can outwork this guy. And so when I saw that and read the average millionaire fails 9 times, I didn't go, oh, I just got to get to 9. I went, oh shit, my dumbass might take 15 times, and I'm only at 2 right now. I better hurry up and get to 13. And so if every time I have a good idea, if I'm literally going to think about it for a year or 2 and build a business plan and figure it out and go get money, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to get to 15. So as soon as I have an idea, I got to find a way to go apply that idea and fail my ass off, and so I can get to the next idea. And so that was built into me at like 22. And then I think I heard Mark Randolph articulate it better than I did. And I went, oh, that makes so much sense, that this is part of why I was successful, was because I had that same cavalier attitude of like, I just got to go. Like, I am not going to be like overcomplicate this, because I need to go test this hypothesis and see if it's a good idea. And you learn so much through that. I can't tell you how many things that I thought was going to be a good idea, and then you start to take action towards it and you realize, oh shit, this is not that good of an idea.
Dude, I started at one point, I started a website based on like fashion, and I failed at that. Yeah. But I learned a lot about website creation, about how they're handled, how they're maintained. It wound up helping me later on in life when we have websites for the companies. I learned how to like program what was then Macromedia Flash, which helped us when we're doing the video content and stuff like that. I've failed at more fucking things in my career than I can even care to remember. I started a real estate company at one point that failed, and then I started a second one later on. And it's funny, every time I go and check my license to see if I need to submit some stuff for my continuing education, I always see the first company's name because it stays on your license forever. And I always remember how like I had the highest aspirations for that company, but I was so young. Yeah. And now I can look back on it and go, okay, yeah, I wasn't ready for X, I wasn't ready for Y. Yeah. But if it wasn't for those experiences, I don't think I'd be where I'm at.
100%. And, I know this was like a long-winded answer to what Saied originally asked, but that's where I got to where I'm at, is because I wish I could say that I had this great mentor who I get to lean on and ask all these questions, but a lot of it was hard knocks. Like I failed a bunch of times. Like I remember, and some of my ideas were good ideas. They had a point where like an inflection point of a growth where, oh shit, I can't scale anymore because I'm tapped. Like for example, I ran a very successful boot camp business in the Bay Area. Thought it was a brilliant idea. Thought it was really good too, because I'm like, oh, I can grow these big groups and I could charge people a better deal, and then I can, and I had like 3 or 4 trainers that were working underneath me, and it was like I really got to a point where like, man, I was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, working 8 o'clock at night. I had all these different camps all over the place, and I still wasn't a millionaire yet. I'm like, I was still quite a ways away from being a millionaire. I had a successful little business I had built, But I mean, when I actually sat down and realized, like, oh, I didn't math this out very well.
Yeah.
Like, what does $1 million look like doing this business? It's like, oh man, it doesn't look very realistic at all. I wouldn't have figured that out had I not gone and tested that. And luckily, I made a little bit of money along the way, but I learned so much doing things like that. And so by the time we got to Mind Pump, you know, we're all in our 30s. We've all tried different businesses. We've learned a lot of that stuff. We've learned a lot of the rules of business and scaling that I think I had a pretty good idea. And I feel like for the most part, going through the process, I've got a pretty good nose for things that we should waste our time or not waste our time on. And for the most part, we've made a lot of really good decisions in the scaling process. And it helps having, you know, 3 other brilliant entrepreneurs as partners, for sure.
And that's kind of the messaging that we've been trying to preach to our listeners too, is, you know, don't be afraid to fail. Get out there. I remember we actually had this on the last conversation we had with you when you were on the podcast. You had mentioned this book where you have to try, you know, the average millionaire or entrepreneur that built something. It took them 9 times, you know. So that's like, don't be afraid to fail. Get out there, you know, learn along the way, take on those hard knocks, and build something over time. And even if it fails, you can carry it on to the next thing.
Yeah, and there's something too about like the education that you get from actually doing the thing.
It's so much more valuable.
It's way better than the education of the book or the schooling or the mentorship that you get. Like, going and doing the thing gives you a whole different perspective of that thing. And so
this is my beef with a lot of the online mentorship and courses and things like that. There are certain scenarios with which that's an ideal and fine thing to do. There are certain scenarios where you're trying to circumvent experience of persevering through businesses that you can't cut that out.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to do it and fail or not fail. I think that's a problem too, is a lot of people are just afraid of it. They're just afraid of the public humiliation of failing because let's say you start a business. Let's say you start advertising. Your friends are going to know. People around you are going to know.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to be the guy who started a business and failed, but everybody wants to be the guy who started a business and succeeded.
Yeah. I think that's another great point. Like, this you know, harkens back to my childhood and not being the greatest athlete. Like, and also not the best looking guy, right? I had crooked teeth. I was a poor kid. I wasn't the most athletic. So like, you know, failure was a common theme, you know, so I got really comfortable in it. Like, it was just, to me, really early on, I didn't take failure on like probably a lot of people do. Like, failure, especially for someone who's good looking and successful and gets a lot of what they want, like maybe, and this is why this is the theory, and I forget what they call this, but it's like the pretty girl theory. Like, the beautiful girl who gets told yes to everything and everybody gives everything to her and everything comes easy for her. Like, boy, that's real rough, because sooner or later life hits that person in the face. Like, I feel like I got punched in the mouth so early that I adopted the failure thing as just part of the process. So I actually had the attitude of going into, I'll probably fail, but you know what's cool? I'm going to learn some cool shit along the way. Like, that's kind of how I look at it.
But you also looked at it as you didn't have anything to lose either, where a lot of people have like this image that they're trying not to lose. I had a birthmark, believe it or not. It looked like one of the Indian like dots.
Oh, really?
On my forehead. That's where the scar's from. Is I actually had it surgically cut off because they were worried about it being exposed to the sun and becoming cancer later on. But I grew up getting made fun of. I was a tall, awkward kid. You know, you had to like push through basketball, learn how to play, and even people always expect, oh, if I was your height, I'd be dunking a basketball like crazy. And you Saied still tells me that to this day, by the way.
It's still true.
Yeah. But yeah, you grow up like that, and it just gives you this motivation, which we both have sons.
Yeah.
I look at my son all the time, and I think, this good-looking fucker. Like, I need to find a way to build some adversity for him to, like, overcome.
I know.
Right? And, you know, our kids are not going to have it the way we did when we grew up.
No.
We're going to be able to provide a very different lifestyle.
Yeah.
I think about this constantly.
I do. It's this is the thing that keeps me up at night right now as a dad is so, and I had, you know, the fact that I married a, you know, D1 collegiate athlete, I thought we would have an athletic son. Like, I thought for sure, like, my wife is a b-ball player. I played sports. I know I wasn't the most athletic gifted, but I love sports. She loves sports. Like, we're going to have an athletic son. Sports are on the house 24/7. Like, nah, my kid doesn't give a shit about balls at all. Like,
my son doesn't either, dude.
He doesn't. My son.
I've tried everything.
Me too. And I'm even like careful, because I know someone's listening right now. Well, you can't push it. I don't. Like, it's there. It's
you just give him the exposure.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's there. It's available. If he wants to do it, daddy will play with him. If daddy won't force him. And like, I've tried, I've prayed, and it's just not happening. And why I'm bringing that up is that even though I knew he was going to grow up in this privileged life, I was hopeful for sports because sports is such a great microcosm for life, dude.
Discipline, perseverance,
everything,
work ethic.
I can think of every life lesson that I will need to teach my son regarding or related to adversity. I can find that in sports. Literally, like there is every major lesson that you could want to teach your kid for character development, perseverance, confidence, failure, working with others, overcoming. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
Sports really does provide it. So long as you're a parent who's involved, right? Like if you're paying attention when your kid goes through it, right? You just put your kid in sports and you don't pay. Maybe you'll get lucky that he gets a good coach and someone will teach him along the way. But I had already planned, like, okay, I'm going to be good. Like, I know he's going to grow up in this nice house and see nice cars and do shit like that. So I'm fucked there. I'm not going to be able to fix that. Like, but I'm going to put him in sports. And then every practice and every hardship, I'm going to be like teaching him, right? Yeah. It's like my kid doesn't want sports. So I think a lot like, it's like right now our lessons are in puzzling, So it's like we're doing a puzzle together and he can't fit a piece and he gets frustrated. He wants to cry, son. Schafer's never quit.
My son's 8 years old and he's very much like your son Max, right?
Oh, really?
Where I didn't want to force it on him and I kind of just backed away. But now that he's in school and now he's going into the 3rd grade, the cool sport is basketball, right? And all the cool kids are playing basketball. So now he's diving in, and so the adversity that is there for him is being accepted by the quote unquote cool kids.
Oh, wow.
This guy's coaching the team. He's got a daughter now who's playing soccer. He's going to games all the time. So there's a plus minus there as a parent because he's going to games all the time and coaching. But
I mean that's the part that I really hope is going to happen, right? So that's and everybody tells me, and I know too. I was a late bloomer. So I actually didn't get introduced to sports until like 5th and 6th grade. So I know I have a long time still, and I really didn't have interest before that. I had some interest in water sports because I was around lakes and boats and stuff, but I really was not this, like I said, athletic person. I wasn't really introduced to sports. I played a little bit of soccer before that. I should just back up. I did play soccer as a kid, but that wasn't even until I was, I want to say 7 or 8 years old when I started playing soccer. So he's still at an age where it's like, okay, we'll see, maybe he'll, find it. But anyways, the key is that, life is going to hand him some sort of adversity. Like it's going to bring, I mean, he's going to be way more privileged, obviously, but he'll have his challenge, his own thing. And the key, I think, is for us dads is just to become aware of that and use those opportunities to teach when we can. But yeah, you're right. That's the stuff as a dad right now that I just don't want my son to be a pussy.
Absolutely.
Just son, you can't be a pussy.
My son's in jiu-jitsu right now.
Oh, that's great. See,
he kissed the girl that he was rolling with the other day, and I'm like, son, you're supposed to be taking her down to the ground.
Oh my god.
And so then he came over to get water. I'm like, son, please don't lick her.
He's going through a licking phase right now.
It's just everything he can, which is ironically what I do to Saied in the studio most nights,
God.
but he doesn't know that.
I also wrestle with this as a dad too, that the same thing that I'm like fearful of because of he is just the sweetest boy in the world. I've never met anybody that's been around my son and doesn't like, he gets everywhere I take him, I get complimented about him, and there's like every teacher is like, oh my God, Max is so, because he's so loving and he's so sweet. And so there's this challenge that I have of like, I want this gritty, tough kid, but then I also don't want to crush that beautiful spirit of him that is so attractive, right? That people love. Like he's just a beautiful, warm soul, and it's contagious. You see it the way he is with people, and I'm like, so I want him to be tough, but then I also don't want to crush that spirit of him. So I mean,
my son's the same way. Super affectionate, super loving, super emotional in moments. But you can just look at him the wrong way, he'll start crying.
Oh
sometimes.
yeah, it's my son.
And I'm just like, I try to be cognizant of it because, as a dad, you go to work, you come home, you don't think about if you look at your son like angry, like he's going to start crying, but he will. That's
last night at dinner. Katrina was giving me a hard time because she had told him that I forget what he was doing, and she's just like, no, we're eating at the dinner table. We're trying to be more organized about how we have dinner as a family together. Now he's at an age where he's more cognizant of that. She's like, no, you can do your puzzles and your words with that, but no more whatever he was doing. I don't know what it was, and you could tell he was sad. And I didn't like overhear the whole conversation, and I was like, "What's going on? What? what, Max? And then I like looked at him, and I just gave him like a stern look, and then it just
all downhill right there.
Oh yeah, melted him. He started, and Katrina's like, "Honey, why did you do that?" I'm like, "Why did I do what? I didn't fucking say anything."
Yeah.
But I mean, my son is that in tune and that sensitive to feeling like that if he sees that look on my face, it's like he instantly will go to that. And I'm like,
this is literally a mirror image of what Joanne and I have happen all the time, where I'll just look at him a certain way, he'll start crying, she'll be like, "What did you do?" And I'm like, "I did nothing."
Yeah, I know.
It's a thing. So before we started the show, you were talking about the back half of your life.
Yeah.
I want to talk about all the back half.
Okay. Yeah.
Chris always wants to talk about the back half.
Well, I mean, you are thick, right? It's a natural. Obviously, I got to type.
Can't help himself.
Yeah. So, Mind Pump 10 years in.
Yeah.
The next 10 years, what does that mean for you personally and professionally?
Yeah. So, I've been like when I think of like the future of the business and like what do I want out of it and everything like that. Everybody in my partnership has kind of reached like this level, like where they're all pretty happy and content with like where they're at and where they're going. And me personally, I've been trying to wrap my brain around what that looks like, because I'm like very much so love the scaling of a business and building a business, and that we've built now several. And now I'm realizing that all I'm doing now is I'm spreading myself more and more thin to chase like just another zero, right? And even though I enjoy that process, I also don't want to get lost in that. I also want to make sure that I'm present, not only with my family, but I'm also enjoying the process of all that. And what do you do it all for? Like if you're not enjoying these things, right? And so I've been thinking a lot about like what is like the next 10 to 20 years or more looks like in my life. And I've always had a passion for cars. I like the things. If I'm not watching real estate and business type of content like you guys. I'm watching car stuff, especially more now. That's actually part of why I've fallen off this. I've been so like obsessed with car stuff right now. And so I have this, like, I want to like race cars, not like legitimately. I don't need to be like go pro racing. Like my wife will freak out if I try and become like a real, although it could.
Plus guys our size don't fit very well in a race
Yeah,
cars.
exactly. Yeah, we don't fit that. We're not ideal, right? We're not good race car drivers or jockeys, right? So, but I mean, I'm like a car enthusiast, I guess is what you would say. And I love them. I appreciate them. I have since I was a kid. So when I had my first car in high school and all of my money that I made into my 20s, every paycheck, I used to go down to the place and get a modification to my car. And I've been doing that since every car I've ever had, I've modified and changed. And I love cars. I love driving cars. I'm always... If the boys and I go anywhere, I drive, always us. So I'm always the one to drive. And I like it. I just love to drive. So the back half of my life, I'm trying to build it around a business or us where I get to drive really cool cars. If I'm lucky, I can drive it for a living and make money doing it. At the bare minimum, I just want to be able to do it and do it as inexpensive as I can, because it can get really expensive.
I had an idea a long time ago, and so one of the cars that I was building, still in building, but it's been a delayed project, was this Datsun. It's a 1968 Datsun 510 with a Skyline GTR front end to it. Side knows I picked it up like, I think 10 or 11 years ago at this point, and it's just been every colossal misstep you could take. I mean, I'm $200,000 into a car probably worth maybe $40,000.
Oh my God. I mean, I didn't realize you were that much. I know you. As long as I've known you, you've been building that towards the thing. I didn't realize you've sunk that much into this.
And I've got a BMW, which we bought 5 years ago, the day my son was born, from the hospital, which is going to be finished and ready for the show this year. So just to give you an idea how polar the construction has been. And even that project was delayed. But I had an idea when I was working with the builder at one point in time. He was telling me, he was lamenting about how expensive his shop costs were in San Diego. And I was like, what if we did kind of what they're doing with food, where you have these small independent type vendors in a giant kind of cafeteria-like setting, but we do it for cars? And then those guys in LA put together, I can't remember the name of the shop right now. They basically put together like an advertising, marketing / car agency all in the same place. And I thought, okay, well, why don't you do that where you have all, not just a car shop, but you have marketing, clothing, merchandising. You have everything you can there, but you do the meats there. You have a coffee shop there, and you just arrange an entire space dedicated to nothing but the passion of cars. And then you have micro vendors there. You could own the real estate. They could pay you. You could be one of the vendors there. You could have, like you said, prior to this, before the mics went hot, you could have a podcast out of that. They could all rent the space when you're not using it. You could have a show out of it. I mean, you could do so much because that community is so wide.
Oh, and then there's a lot of money in it too. I mean, this is actually kind of a neat transition from what we originally were talking about, because here's an example of just like how my brain works. Like, I've decided that I want to drive cool cars, exotics, classics. I'm into all that stuff. I want to do it for as little as money as possible. If I'm really good, I can make some money doing it. Like that's the desired outcome, right? So spend as little as I can, have as much fun as I possibly can, and experience as much as I possibly can. And if I'm smart and clever enough, can I actually make some money doing it? And what I don't do is I don't fall in love or marry an idea yet. Like, it's like this is exactly what we talked about. It's like Saturday, I'm going down, I'm meeting up with a bunch of Ferrari guys. I just found out through a friend of a friend, this guy who went on a cruise with me like a month or two ago, who has just bought a commercial garage. And that was one of the things I talked to my CPA about, is like, how can I finagle like a commercial garage underneath this business or build something around it? So I'm going there like to learn. Like, it's literally education for me. It's like, I don't know enough about this. I am curious about it. I think it could be a good idea. I'm not hell bent on, like, see, this is just, instead of me going like, oh, I should look into how much the lease would cost for this, and can I make the P&Ls work, and like, I don't even think, it's like, let's go figure it out. I already got it. I got somebody who I can go to, go talk to, go feel it, go look at it, go ask him questions like, what's really expensive here, or have you had any success, or how would you do it? Like, that's like step one. I'm already taking action. First actually was getting my CPA to approve what I could or couldn't do, type of deal. Okay, got the rules. Let me go start using my relationships to learn from people that have probably already tried to make the same or made the same mistakes as me. And that's kind of how my brain is. Like, I'm so open to what this could look like for me. I know that what the goal is, and I know I have lots of connections and relationships. And what did I say to you before we started? Like, you started touting all these different cool car clubs that are down here, and none of them are available. I'm like, tell me, let's go. I want to go. Like, I would just fly down to come down just to go see these firsthand, to ask the owners what's it like, and that's kind of where this is at. And like, I already started an Instagram page right on the back end, so like I already started building a community, and that's like, again,
drop the handle, man.
I will full compression.
Yeah. So
full compression. It's my garage, right? So you can see my car. Which, by the way, I don't talk about this on my podcast. I haven't shared that on my podcast.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring it up if you were, because I didn't know if you were going to do it.
I'm being kind of undercover about the whole thing. So we've been really quiet on my podcast about financial success. We've flown under the radar for a really long time, and Doug really is Doug and Sal, like, they really don't like that. It's hard for me because I'm a bit flashy. Like, I like nice things. I do a lot of stuff like that. It's part of my life. And so
there comes a point where you're allowed to enjoy the fruits of the labor.
Well, I also think that there's a way to do it, and there's a way that, like, I'm not.
I think the way you've done it has been very classy, candidly. I think it's been very classy, very under the radar. The only reason I know is I'm your friend.
Right.
We've talked about cars before and after you were buying stuff.
And so I appreciate that, right? Because, so I have a rule, because I had a lot of insecurities around money growing up. And so when you have a lot of insecurities around money, you end up going through a phase, probably like I did, where when I started to make a little bit of money, a lot of the things I bought, a lot of things I spend money on wasn't truly for me. It was truly to show everybody else, look, I made it.
I did the same thing.
I think everybody does.
I think it comes from a place of not having money.
That's right. That's what I mean. Like, if you have an insecurity around money, you tend to do this, right? And some of us become aware of it. Some of us never grow out of it. Okay. I like to think that I grew through this, right? I was self-aware enough to recognize this about myself. And so I have some rules around nice things. And rule number one is, if I really, really want to spend money on something, obviously we're talking about like expensive things. If I'm buying a fucking t-shirt for $20, a different story. But if I'm buying a watch, I'm buying a car, I'm buying something that's expensive, right? I don't buy it that day. I have to wait at least 24 hours. That's a rule.
I have a similar. I've been trying to get my wife to follow this rule.
I tell Katrina this. It's a very powerful exercise, because I can't tell you how many times I put something in a cart and was going to buy,
and you never buy it,
and I never buy it, because all it took was sleeping on it and going like, I'm not really.
If I'm still thinking about it a day or two later, okay, then I really want it.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Right. So that's exercise one. Exercise one. You have to wait 24 hours before you make that purchase. That's helped me a lot. Exercise two. When I buy said thing, do I feel the need, or do I want to post it on social or show it to people right away? And if I feel this urge or desire to want to do that, then I again pause and go, is this really for me? Or is this another example of, or me doing old behaviors of me wanting to show everybody, look at, I made it, right? So that is, those two have helped me work through that insecurity around money, and hence why a lot of people don't know about all my cars and watches and stuff like that, because I didn't want to do that. And I feel like that's so popular in the social media influencer space, is like,
well, yeah, but they're using it to gain popularity.
I know.
You know, you're using it because you like it.
Yeah.
And you're trying to build a community around something that you like, because like-minded people navigate to things that they're interested in.
Yeah, and this is why too, I haven't even decided, like I know I just spilled the beans on your show, but I haven't decided if I'm going to talk about it on my show as my page. As right now, I have one of my editing guys that he's like my little partner in it because he likes cars, and so I thought this would be great. I'll do this project with him. Right now, I'm trying to teach him how to build this without the power of Mind Pump, and I want to go, because part of it is like, I don't know if I want to reveal it's me. I'm like, I believe I can build a car community without building it around my name. And so I'm wanting to exercise that of like, can I build a car community around cool cars and good tips and good places? Like, we haven't even got into that yet, but that's the future of the things that I want to do on the social media platform, is to give people tips and things that I've learned through all the reading and experience of being around these cars, and share that on that platform and grow that community without using the power. I know if I tell people on Mind Pump that just out of curiosity, a lot of people will come over just, oh wow, he's got, but I don't want that. I want to try and build it as if it didn't exist. And so that's part of why I haven't shared it
I know that's viewed as somewhat taboo in the space too. I've heard Brendan Schaub over, Fighter and the Kid, talk about this.
Yeah.
And he's actually very open about his car collection and what he's doing with his cars. And his thought process behind it was, my fans helped me get to where I'm at. I kind of want to show them, how I got here, and look, we did this together, kind of thing.
It's funny you bring that up, because I used to talk to Brendan quite a bit. I have his number, and I've been meaning to reach out to him to ask him, because I haven't watched their show in a long time. And I know that he's been showing his whole process with his trucks. And he used to have a GTR RS too. You know that, right?
Yeah.
He had the purple one. And I know he sold it. And so I was actually, one, I was curious why he sold that thing. And then two, I wanted to hear his whole, what his journey of like sharing that, because that's why I go back and forth, right? I haven't decided if I'm going to do it. I definitely know that I'm not going to do it on the Mind Pump Media platform. I figured what I would do is like, I would build this thing up. Maybe at one point I'll announce it. Maybe this ends up letting the cat out of the bag and I start talking about it more.
We only have like 5 listeners. You're fine.
Stupid. Yeah. And maybe I talk about it more on the show, like organically, but I definitely don't want it. I don't want it to be a part of my, like, I know like that has become Brendan Schaub and his brand and Fighter and the Kid. Like, it's all like, I don't want it to be a part of Mind Pump Media. I want it to be completely separate of that. So that's kind of the thought process right now. But really, this all circles back to what we were talking about, building a business. Like, this is how I roll. I have no idea. Like, I have no idea. Like, maybe what it ends up being is like, someone like me and you get to like test drive all the newest cool cars. And because we have a presence online, that we can get enough people to view us. And then maybe car companies send us the new models before anybody else, and we get to drive them. We get to talk about them. Like, that would be fun. Like,
dude, I know a ton of influencers that literally do that.
Yeah.
They get. I have some people in the car space. I can make some introductions. John, Stan, I'm talking about you two. But they literally are in the media space. They often are pinged by car companies. One of them told me the other day, he's like, I got a Rolls Royce for 3 days.
Yeah,
I'm like, cool. Why? He's like, they want me to write a review on it. I'm like, what? Why aren't we stealing this?
Yes. Well, hey, that's
just, come on.
This is exactly like, these are all things I would love to do, and we'll see how it unfolds. But that would be so cool to me if I could get to a point where I can build up the media side on the car side, or become enough of an authority in that space that I can get companies like that.
I got to take you to SEMA, dude.
Let's go.
When the BMW is done, I think it's late October, early November, somewhere in that.
There's been like 4 different times I was supposed to go and I didn't go. My buddy did a build last year, and then I was supposed to go and didn't go. I'm down.
Did the build make it, or you just not go?
No, his build made it. Yeah. He had an orange Z28 Camaro that he put in LS6,
LS3. He was in one of the American car booths.
Oh, I don't know what booth he was. Yeah, but he's a buddy of mine that has shout out to Mike's Classic Cars and more. Although I think he changed his handle now because he's going down the fitness path right now.
No, you're kidding. Really?
Yeah. He had one of the largest Instagram. He had like 300,000 followers on his car. But hey, that's a cool conversation too around. So right now, what you see on full compression is not a good example of how to build an Instagram page. So I want to make that clear for anybody who hears us talk about business and you think I know what I'm doing business-wise and then you see what I'm doing. This is not a good example.
Boys pulled it up here. It'll be behind us whenever we actually show this. But why?
Okay, so the reason why this is not good. Okay, well, do you have any guesses why this is not a good way to build this page?
Number one, there's no face associated with it, so
Okay.
you need some personality. Number two, let me see here. If I were to take a look at it, no, it looks like a normal car page.
Okay, here's why. So think of it like this in the fitness world. What you're looking at is a bunch of bikini pics of a hot girl.
Okay, yeah.
No value. Okay, let me tell you let me go to Exotic Car Hacks. Go to his Instagram page.
Oh, I know that page. Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people don't like this guy. I like him.
I like this page.
I like
him personally. I don't know him.
Oh yeah, he's a cunt, and I like him because of it. Yeah, he is. He totally is. I feel like you like him because
just when I thought I couldn't love you more.
Oh, bro, you're not familiar with PJ?
So, yeah, PJ's an Iranian guy. He's actually down here, right?
Yeah, shout out to PJ. No, he's Florida. He's Florida. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so this is a very good page. Okay, I follow all kinds of car pages.
He has an opinion, though.
Exactly. He has an opinion, and every one of his posts. Look at his top 3 posts up there too. Like he teaches. Look at it's adding value. So I follow probably, I don't know, 100 car pages, okay? But I check his every time a new post comes, and I read every single post. Why? Because I can't tell you how many I've screenshotted that were of really good value. Like, oh shit, that's really good information. So
and his warehouse, by the way, where he stores his cars, is fucking awesome.
Oh, bro, he's got 10 million plus in cars that are sick. Right?
So he was on a podcast not too long ago where he said that he was particularly talking about Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and he was basically saying how these are the new Mercedes-Benz of the generation, and that supercars really start at a different breed.
At a million, that's what he says.
Yeah,
which made me feel like a piece of shit, by the way. Just when I made the supercar, made it, and he's just like, yeah, you're not really making it yet.
Right.
He basically compared it to like if you got a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, it's like a Range Rover of 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was inflammatory, the statement, but he's not necessarily wrong from an inflation and financial perspective.
He's right. Yeah, I mean, he makes a lot of really good points. And the point of me bringing up since we're talking about this, and the fact that I want to build a page, I'm trying to teach my guy right now. Like literally, I threw up a bunch of pictures right now as like holders, right? Like here's my cars, but this is how you build a car page, just like you would build a fitness and health page. Is that you want people to. You want to add value. If you're going to eventually sell anything, and you need to become an authority in your space, one of the ways you become an authority in whatever your space is by providing really good value to your community. My car page right now, if I was really trying to build it into a page one day that I could monetize or be an authority in, it's a terrible page. It's just a bunch of, in a sense, naked chicks. Everybody likes the cars. The cars are cool, so it gets likes. Might even get a bunch of comments. Might even get a bunch of followers. But I'm not teaching. I'm not helping. I'm not changing your life. You're not coming back. You're not sharing my pages unless you're like, oh, cool. You like a GTR? Here's one. That's not going to convert into a solid business as is right now. Right. So I'm not putting a lot of effort into this right now. We're just throwing shit up. So, but this is like a good topic around entrepreneurs that are trying to build like a social media following. And by the way, these are rules of business. Okay, like imagine this is why it's so kind of crazy that we don't think like this. Like imagine 2 scenarios of like a brick and mortar gym. You walk into the first gym and they greet you and they see how you're doing and they ask you about your fitness goals and they inquire about how long you've been trying to do this, and then they teach you a few things about nutrition and they show you a couple things on the floor, and you're like, damn, you spent like 30 minutes and you're like, holy shit, this trainer has taught me so much, helped me so much, like I think I'm going to come back maybe. And then you walk into the other gym, you walk in the next gym, and you walk in and the dude just shows you his abs. And he shows you flexes for you. He's just like, and then you're like, buy my gym, or you should buy training from me. And you're like,
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, like literally, that people are doing this online, thinking that this is a way to build a business. It's like, because we back to how this whole conversation started at the beginning of this, like we get so caught up in the just trying to get eyeballs and attention, because you're right. If you do have 10 million people paying attention to you, you can be an idiot and you can throw almost anything out there and, 1% conversion selling a product for 50 to $100 and you'll make some money. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but you're trying to repeat this exact same thing over and over again because you don't have any business acumen at that point in time. And that repetition gets old and your value starts to wear off.
That's right.
And then people go away.
That's right. And that you ride that way for a minute and then it's over. And it's like, and then what do you do then? You sell your thing to everybody else. Tell everybody.
Or you start an OnlyFans.
Yeah. Or that. Or that.
That happens a lot.
But yeah, that's an example of something that, like, okay, I have a plan for that, but it's not being executed yet. And I think that whether you like PJ or not, what he's done a really good job is and he started in the watch game first. So he didn't even he built his millions teaching people how to flip watches and how to make money off of the watch market and educating people on that way before anybody else was doing that. That's where he made his bones, did that really well, literally saw the opportunity in the exotic car market and has done that now in the exotic car market.
And if you timed that market well over the last 14 or 15 years, it just skyrocketed.
Oh, yeah.
It went from like Rolexes, Submariners trading at one value to like doubling, almost tripling at one point in time, depending on what you were at. These guys who bought inventory early and were already in the game, they were doubling and tripling every single time they flipped a watch.
Oh, the Submariner Blackface was one of the first watches I was going to buy. I remember when I was shopping that one. It's not the one I bought, but it was one of the first watches I was shopping back then. So I've had my watches for 15 years now, maybe longer now, some of the first ones. And the Submariner was going for $5,500 MSRP at that time for the Blackface. That was just 13, 15 years ago. Doug bought that exact watch just 2 years ago. He paid 17 something for it.
Doug's a Submariner guy.
Yeah.
I would not have pegged him.
You know
for
what's
that.
funny about it? He never wears it. We were just in Vegas, and the guy wasn't even wearing his Rolex. I bust his balls all the time.
Doug doesn't strike me as a Rolex guy.
That just shows you how actually Doug is very much so into watches, cars, fancy clothes, expensive glasses. Like,
I think he's in it for like a different. I think he wants it because of the quality.
oh yeah,
He's not buying because he wants you to look at him.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
He's definitely not. No, definitely not. Like that. Him and I have the most in common when it comes to bougie, nice things. Doug likes fancy hotels. Doug likes fine dining. Him and I are like the closest with that.
Love Doug.
Yeah, no, he's very much so.
We love Doug so much we call Arun New Doug.
Yeah, we do.
Hey, literally, he is that guy, but he's so humble, undercover. He's almost embarrassed of his success sometimes, I feel like, because I was just teasing him because we just got back from Vegas, and I was like, Doug, if you don't wear your Rolex to Vegas, where the fuck do you wear your Rolex? Like,
Valid question.
yeah, totally valid question.
Where are you wearing it?
Right. And I forget what his bullshit answer was he gave back to me, but we were at like we
guys did an event.
Yes.
Yeah.
No Rolex. Like, he's wearing a suit, wearing his Apple Watch. I'm like, what are you? You have a beautiful, flawless Submariner that you've had for 2 years, and you don't. But he doesn't tell people he has it. I mean, he's super undercover about. He's got a sick ass GT Mercedes too. Like, you don't ever see that, or that doesn't get pulled.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. No, he's all into that stuff, but he's super undercover about it.
Good for him, though. I respect the hell out of that.
No, so I tease him, but I also admire that a part of him, because we're very different, and so I think we rub a little bit off on each other. I think he appreciates my boldness around all that stuff.
See, Saied, no more fucking black card jokes. You appreciate my boldness.
Yeah. So
Okay, sir.
So he I think sometimes he's trying to come my way a little bit, and I'm trying to come his way a little bit, because he's really good about just like super undercover about all that stuff.
See, my dad, he was here earlier. I don't know if you met him. You didn't meet him, did you? He was in the room next door.
Oh, no.
He's always been like, for him, it's been like a status symbol. Like, his perception of his wealth was almost irrelevant to somebody else's perception of his wealth. And I grew up with and this is a lot of the Iranian community too. I grew up around a lot of it. And for me, it was always a bit of a foreign concept, because my mom was so different. She grew up in poor Midwest. Her parents were essentially like farming some of their food. I mean, it was very different, right?
Yeah.
So to my mom didn't care. Like, she was so you could show a Rolex to my mom right now, and she'd be like, "Oh, that's a nice watch." She wouldn't know the difference between that and a Casio.
Yeah,
she really wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And my dad was always about, people need to perceive your success. And in some ways, I looked back on it and I thought, that was a lot of my youth.
Yeah.
And the older I've got, the more if someone's going to recognize my success, I don't want you to see it on me. I want you to recognize it in the things that I'm doing.
Oh, sure. That's fair. That's fair. Although I got a piece that I've been shopping in. I think you know, because I think I told you years ago. I finally got a piece. It finally came through. 4 years in the waiting for this timepiece, and it finally came through.
Is it the presidential, the one we talked about? The date?
Yep. Finally came in.
You didn't even tell me. What a selfish
I
son of a
know.
bitch
It just happened.
Really?
Like literally, I just bought it 2-3 days ago.
Congrats, man.
So 2-3 days ago, I bought it.
Onyx face? Which face you go
and I
with?
paid just a yellow gold,
okay.
diamond markers, day. Yeah.
The
all
baguettes?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'll show it to you. And
that is my favorite roll. That with an onyx face, my favorite.
I think
Rolex.
it's I like the onyx face too, though. I could have easily been persuaded that way. I tell you what, if that would have came in and not that, I would have bought that. So if those two are close enough to like exactly what I wanted. So it came in, I bought it, and I'm most proud that I paid MSRP. Right, I paid what that watch is worth from Rolex. Did not pay over, and I had waited 4 years for that market to fucking.
Yeah.
sell.
So for those of you who don't know, buying a watch at MSRP means you've been on a list, you've waited, and you were in their program for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, which means you bought other watches.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you're somebody who comes in off the street, you're paying almost 2 times that in some circumstances for the same watch.
Yeah, and I could have bought that watch exactly that
Yeah.
if I were willing to pay 30-40%.
I mean, I was sending you links.
I
to
know,
them, like,
and I
back
was
in
like,
the day.
no. I'm like, I have all my friends are telling me, oh, I can get it for you, but it's this much, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not. So yeah. Anyways, so funny. And then I send it over to the thread, and Sal's totally not the watch guy at all. So he's the opposite. He sends back, does it tell time? Right? I say, listen, I don't wear a watch to tell time. I wear a watch to tell others how valuable my time is.
There you go.
And he's like, oh, okay, I like that. And I said, yeah. So I think that was like one of the best quotes I ever heard. So I wish I remember who said that. I stole that from somebody else. But I'm like, that's so good. So
I saw that somebody did that on a Shannon Sharp interview recently too. They quoted the exact same thing.
Oh, really?
It was it Chad Ochocinco? So who was it? Was somebody random.
I don't know where I heard it.
It was Chad Ochocinco and Shannon Sharp together. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
but he wasn't the first person to come up with it. It was somebody else.
No, I heard it a long time
Yeah,
ago. Before Shannon Sharp even had his show, I heard it. So I've been saying that for a while. But I definitely did not come up with it. I took it from somebody else. I just don't remember who I could give credit. I actually Googled it to try and figure it out, and I couldn't find a good source.
Ruin your new Doug.
Yeah.
Find out.
He's literally typing to me right now. I missed the quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with our Doug is that he doesn't actually pay attention to the show.
Well, that's actually, I've been teasing Doug a lot about that lately. Every once in a while, I'll be like, "What, you looking at porn over there? What's going on? You're not paying attention, Doug? What's going on over there?"
And you can see it makes him so uncomfortable.
Oh, he does. Hey, when I say that to Doug, he gets so squirmy. He gets all red, dude. Oh my god,
he's the best.
He is the best to fuck with because he gets all squirmy like that for sure. But
Oh, you know we had Sal's cousin on, right?
you guys, I meant to ask you how that was.
It was great. No, we had a good show.
Alex, right?
Yeah, there was one little tiny problem though.
Oh no.
So,
Oh no. Oh no.
and he knows it. So this is not like I'm not
okay.
spilling the tea. So we recorded the show. It was like middle of the day. It was probably it was like 6 p.m. Right? And it gets dark around 7-ish.
Okay.
Where he was at. So we're talking to him. He had overhead lighting and no front lighting at all.
Oh god.
So as it got darker and darker, he started to have like a darker and darker shadow over his face. And by the end of the interview, he looked like Skeletor.
He's in a shadow.
Oh yeah, he was like, "I want your trust." It was, it was so dark. I'm like, bro, this is not good.
Oh my god.
And the whole time, Saied and I were sitting here like texting each other, going, like, "Do we tell him?" We're like, "No, just keep rolling, bro. Let's go."
Oh, that's hilarious.
But it was.
I bet you he went and bought a light right after that.
No, as soon as we hit the stop record button, I was like, "Hey man, we got to get you a light in front of you. You got to be front lit. We got to get you a camera that's better than this." And I do the whole like breakdown. But no, and he literally went out and bought like a light and everything and a microphone too.
I bet.
It was a great conversation, though. If you haven't listened, you should go check it out.
No, it was a
No,
great one,
yeah, Alex is great. I love Alex, and that what they're doing is brilliant.
Get
dude.
Dynasty.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
No, it really is. It's really brilliant. So I mean, I love like things that are going to disrupt spaces, and it sounds like what they're doing is like really going to disrupt the space. So
Yeah, and he's got an interesting background because he knows so much of the technical nuance based side of the storage, the data. We even pinged him on like the notary stuff. Like you know how they have a robotic arm now that does that?
Yeah.
So we pinged him on all that, and he knew all the nuances, which is unusual for like a co-founder to get like that granular.
Yeah.
But he was in the weeds, man.
Yeah, no, he's a smart kid.
Like he knew every bit of his business, and he did it with like a super chip. Because you usually get one of two types. You get like the really anal data analytic guy. Yeah, go to the end of the episodes. This is the beginning. There's the end.
Oh my god.
So But it was a great.
Oh my god,
funny every
dude.
time.
Oh, I can't wait to tell Sal that. I don't know if Sal knows that.
Yeah, I didn't want to send it over. I didn't want to make him look
Oh,
bad.
You could just look at our faces like, oh, this poor guy. Does he know? Does he not know?
Yeah, but you don't want to stop the show.
Yeah.
You were like, let's keep.
It was such a good conversation. So the audio version was great.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
the audio is perfect.
Yeah, which is probably better anyway, because I'm sure you guys are just like us. Your iTunes is probably much bigger than your YouTube, right?
Yeah, but I will say with the advertising, I was telling you about it before, with the advertising we were doing recently,
it's growing.
it grew pretty quickly, but I don't know what engagement's going to be from that, though.
Yeah.
That's the problem is when you pay for promotions, like what we're doing on YouTube, where you literally go through, you say, promote this, and then you come up with a title, whatever, and you promote it like you see someone's ad on YouTube. A lot of people will subscribe because of the algorithm, but the question is how engaging do they actually get at
Yeah.
some
No,
point?
I wondered the same thing too. Yeah, we've really struggled with the continued growth on the YouTube channel. We really hit up. I mean, we are always like barely growing. It's so funny, like to grow to hundreds of thousands or 1 million followers. If you think about like even if you added 100 people every day, do the math on that.
Yeah.
It still takes a really long time to get to 1 million. Like by
Super long time.
yeah, forever. Like so. You could even be at, which is crazy because if you were adding 100 customers to whatever your business, like that would be a massive win. So it's like I try not to get discouraged by how long the YouTube channel has taken to grow to the size it's at. It's nothing compared to the podcast. I still feel like not a lot of people watch podcasts on YouTube. It's,
100%.
Yeah,
though,
it's growing, but it's not. It's definitely not as popular how many people would just listen to audio. Like
Yeah, because they want to be going to the gym, they want to be driving someplace. They're usually multitasking, washing dishes at home. When you have a YouTube video out, very few people are going to put their phone down, playing a video, and listen to the audio.
yeah.
Like, it's just not the logistics. But I tell people all the time, too, your subscriber count on a lot of these, like your Instagram page or YouTube page, it means nothing. It's the people who are taking in your content and engaging. It's the viewers, it's the streams, it's all that stuff that really matters.
No, 100%.
You could have all the subscribers in the world. I was looking at Graham Stephan the other day, and he's got like over 4 million subs. Huge YouTube channel, right? And he's all about finance, and there's a lot of things I like about what he does, and a lot of things I like he reads off a teleprompter. He's got a lot of scripted content. But then I'm looking at his average video streams. This is not a knock on him. Engagement's down on everybody. But his actual view count's closer between 50,000 for an okay video and probably like 100,000 for an amazing video. So I'm like, that's his core base.
Yes.
Every once in a while, he's going to pop off. There you go. Like, yeah. And look, he's a brilliant guy. He's got a great YouTube channel. He's done a lot of amazing things, but you try to compare yourself.
Yeah, no, I'm a subscriber.
Oh, you really?
Yeah, I watch his stuff. I've been watching him for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a really good communicator. He understands the YouTube game. So I tried to pick up stuff on him a long time ago as far as what he was doing. He's really, really successful from just YouTube. Like he makes most all his money through that. He's a little too conservative for me though with money.
I agree. Yeah, he's very conservative. He has almost like a Dave Ramsey-esque, but younger kind of spin to it.
It's a great way to explain him.
Yeah, I think he appeals to a younger demographic, but the same essential demographic in a lot of ways.
But I do think he's good for that generation. I think he's a good voice for the younger generation coming up on money management. So I think it's a great way to put him. He's like a younger Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, I mean that's what he is. I mean, it's uber conservative. But then I look at that and think to myself, like, there is that 1% of America that's going to fall in that conservative path and be like him and find a way to be successful following that conservative methodology. But for most people, you've got to take the risk and fail, like we started off talking about.
Yeah.
Being conservative isn't going to get you to the wealth that you want. Like, you're not going to become Graham Stephan's being super uber conservative and saving.
No.
Especially now, we talk about it routinely on the show that, the middle class primarily makes their net worth off their home, and right now, we're stepping into a place where we're a nation of renters.
Do you guys believe? I was going to say, do you believe that the generation growing up won't be able to buy their house?
In part, the answer is yes. I think that there's going to be some changes. We talked a lot on the show about how we think there's going to be a paradigm shift. All it's going to take is the GSEs, Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie, to say, okay, we will buy 40-year amortizing mortgages.
I knew that was coming.
And then you're going to wind up seeing prices push up again because people are going to go, okay, I'm going to try to buy now because now I got an extra 10 years of amortization. My payment's that much lower. Yeah. And that's going to be a relief valve for the pressure. But we did the analytics in the show a while back. Home values they've skyrocketed over the last 5 years. At a point you really can't ignore. It's a problem.
Yeah.
I guess in technical theory, in the 80s, you had worse housing affordability. And for people to go, okay, Chris, you had a recession in the 1970s, hyperinflation. In the 80s, you had a double-dip recessionary economy. How did home values come back down from this historic unaffordability? Even worse than it is now. Well, it was over a 20-year period. It wasn't right away.
Yeah, I saw the fear, the consensus that I hear, And the fear is that we're going to have this like slow, long, like small recession for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's just things are going down very, very slow, but it's not this like which would fucking suck.
And that's unfortunately a very likely outcome based on what we've seen right now, unless there's something that breaks. If something breaks in the housing economy, so for just a reference point, the Fed is looking at inflation and core inflation as their primary metrics for determining whether or not they should start cutting rates and relieve the pressure on the economy.
Yeah.
33% of inflation is shelter, housing, right? 40% of core inflation is housing. If you remove that from the equation, you're already at the 2% target for the Fed to start cutting rates. But housing, which is a lagging indicator, hasn't allowed enough relief to start pushing those values down yet.
Yeah.
So another way we get relief, right, is if the Fed steps in to try to save what's going on. So we've been talking about it on our last episode, which we recorded last night. That's going to drop next week. Is you're seeing a lot of these earning calls. There's people talking about operational efficiencies, and that's
actually brought up more times on earning calls over the last quarter than in any earnings call season in history. Yeah. The word operational efficiency appeared on more earnings calls than ever.
So why that matters is the Fed, right, has a dual mandate to provide maximum employment. So if unemployment out of nowhere skyrockets, no matter what's going on with inflation, they will have to reduce the Fed funds rate, and that's going to stimulate the economy again.
There it is.
That's my fear is that we go on a run again.
Yeah, which will only make the problem that much worse down the road.
And then the other part that you guys didn't, I mean, you might have said on your show, but you didn't say right now that I continue to see is that like we still are like record low inventory on houses. And so
that's changing actually. This month it's just started to change. So typically the way this works is whenever you start seeing home values appreciate, it's the coast inward. Yeah. Right? You get to the middle America. When you see depreciation and inventory changes, it's the middle America outward.
Okay, so because I was going to say in the Bay Area right now, I have a buddy who's a realtor in there, and he actually, we inspired him to do a podcast years ago, and I've paid peek in on his stuff every once in a while. I just saw a clip he did, and he pulled up the stats on inventory over the last 5 years at this month, at this time of the year. Yeah, and I mean they're still at like 50% of what it was.
Well, you also live in one of the highest appreciating home value markets in the country.
Right.
I mean, you're in the top 2 or 3 in almost all of the last surveys over the last several quarters.
So, okay, so are you saying to me that that's different than in the Midwest?
Yeah, we Arun, if you want to pull it up from the last show we did, I think we had a link to housing inventory change and supply. So there's some interesting things that have come down. You've seen more rate cuts in the market for new housing supply. Okay. And you've seen an additional influx of surplus inventory over the last couple months. Now, the problem is that a lot of the housing data is lagging. So it's not a real indication of what you're seeing in real time. So you can't look at the Fed numbers and say, okay, this is what the housing market's really at. You have to kind of look at some of those tertiary data that you get. So one of the reports that hopefully that Arun will find will pull up will kind of show you that there it is. You getting it? Maybe.
Yeah, he's trying to track it down right now.
This is why I put them in the show notes, boys. But effectively, you're seeing more supply come online, and as the supply comes online, you're
more relative to what? More relative to last year, or more relative to what it was peak at, like say 5, 6, 7 years ago?
I want to say it's the most additional supply added to the inventory in the last 2.5 years.
Okay, well, yeah, still, but I mean, we're not even close to what it was say 5, 7 years ago.
No, but what you are seeing is more housing price decreases. Oh, there you go.
But my point is that the U.S. housing market is inventory drought.
There you go. Mohammed Al Rain, is that the one?
Yes, it is.
Yes. And more of those owners are cutting asking prices than any time since November of 2022 as inventory grows stale, according to Redfin Corp. So people are bringing more properties online. More people are trying to be competitive, cutting their home price values. This is the beginning of
I was going to say, so now I'm aware of this, right? Mm-hmm. But the part that I thought was so interesting when he was and again, you bring up a good point. I am in the Bay Area. I'm in one of the hottest areas, so maybe it's significantly different in Midwest. But we were like a long ways from just 5 years ago inventory, and so I imagine for this to break, we got to at least get to those numbers or more. So even though inventory is higher than what it was, say, 2 years ago. Well, okay, that's not saying that much because it was like a fucking red hot fire. Everything sold within 5 days back in the like bidding wars, right? So just beating that is not that impressive to me. I think it's like we need to get to the place where we have way more inventory than we've had in the last decade. And it needs to be like that for a hot minute before this starts to cool off a little bit. Otherwise, if they at all slightly drop rates with the inventory the way it is, you're going to see people rush in. I mean, I just heard someone was just telling me about a house they tried to sell or buy just like two months ago, and it was somebody came in on day 3 and over asking by $75,000.
Yeah, it happens in my neighborhood all the time. Pay cash too.
Yes, it was cash offer, $75K over asking.
Yeah, so that's exactly my point. Is that's where unless something in the economy breaks, whether there's a fintech bubble style burst where the Mag 7's leading the way, and people go, these values are outrageous. There's gonna be a bubble burst there. There's a tremendous amount of layoffs that are coming because of these warning signs, or the housing market breaks. Unless one of those things happen, okay, or there's some kind of geopolitical conflict that gets worse than we're seeing right now, then you're in for 20 years of pain. Which, to the original question and yours, was, okay, well, what happens to the ability to come up with this net worth that most people find their primary source of net worth coming from, their home?
Yeah.
They won't be able to buy for an extended period of time. If you're 20, 30 years old and you can't buy until you're 30, 40 years old, you've lost 10 years of equity appreciation. No matter when you buy, that's going to hurt you by the time you're 60.
Yeah. That's how do you advise a kid who's 20 years old, just got this first good 6-figure plus paying job, starting to stack chips? Like, where do you tell that kid to put his money?
I say do exactly what we talked about at the top of the show and what you said, right? Start investing in a company or a business that you want to build over time, and hurry up and try to
invest in yourself.
Invest in yourself. Fail as many times as you can, because it's going to take you at least 9 times. But for dummies like me, it might take 15 times.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, kids ask me all the time, like, because they hear me talk a little bit about this stuff, or like that I'm interested in it, and so they're like, "Hey, I got 20 grand, or I've got 10 grand. Like, where should I put it?" Like, I'm like,
I get that all the time too.
Yeah, and I'm like, go put it in yourself, dude. Go improve your skills. Go educate yourself on a new skill set that can create more money for you, or go improve on the current skill sets that you have so you can charge more money. Like, if you've got 10, 20, 30 grand and you're in your 20s, like, that type of money is not going to move the needle in investing right now, and especially in this type of a market. My advice is pour that money back into yourself, pour that back into your education and your skill sets, so you can then create more money coming in and build more wealth. That, to me, is the best way to invest.
Just make sure it's not some mastermind class.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely true. So one of the things I keep telling people is cash flow is king.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Your ability to generate cash flow, reoccurring income coming in, means way more than your net worth.
I'm so glad you said that.
People focus.
Everybody gets so excited
about
net worth stuff. And like, what does that mean?
Because there's Forbes list on net worth.
So stupid. Forbes is. You know what? The more I got into this world or whatever we're talking about, like, Forbes is so fake.
Oh, it's entirely fake. It's literally bot placement. I mean, if you want any better evidence of it, the entire Saudi royal family would eclipse everybody on that list.
It's, so this is more of like what I learned in this Hampton group, being around all these VCs and everything like that, and all the money they're making and shit like that. Which, by the way, bro, that is a house of cards.
Yeah,
that I didn't know anything about.
You did
not. I didn't know anything about the VC world until the last 2 years, and I had somebody like pull the curtains back and like spit game on me on like how that all works. I was so blown away.
It's wild, right?
It's bullshit, is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, you have these people that have these, $50 million, $100 million companies, right, that are valued at it. They have these founders that have the ability to go out. They're good talkers. They go out, they convince people they have this great business idea. So they go around because they're good talkers and they have a good business idea, or maybe they had some historical success before. And so people trust them, and they go their first round and they go get $10 million.
And keep in mind, when you're in a VC phase, first round CA, you're not making any money at that point.
No.
You're selling them the dream.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So this is how this works. And this is a very common hustle in this space. So I go out, I tell you guys my good idea. I go get first round seed. I get $10 million. I take that $10 million, give myself a nice little $250,000 a year salary because I'm worth it, and I'm going to go build this thing. I go take $9,750,000 and I put it into advertising and getting leads and generating traction and getting eyeballs and emails and all the things to show this growth. Then I come back to you guys in about a year, maybe 2 years, if I had enough runway with that $10 million.
Series B, baby.
And I go, hey, I need another $10 million and look at all this growth. We grow by 300% year over year. We're not profitable yet, but we're growing super fast. I need another $10 million to get to that next thing. So then I get $10 million. This time, when I get that $10 million, I take $3 million off for myself.
And you've got a new valuation for your company.
I got a new valuation that's even higher. So
Yeah.
that's how I justify that $3 million I just put in my pocket. Then I take that $7 million, go try and grow it. And I do that maybe 3 more times. And then 7 years go by and the company never was profitable or barely profitable and goes belly under for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then I go start that fucking hustle again. Meanwhile, I made $250,000 every year on my salary. I took $1 million to $5 million off the top every time, and I go run that game again. And it's like, dude, guy after guy just does this. And meanwhile, I've got connections with people that do Forbes and shit like that put me on the cover, some of that, because I have a company that got valued at $50 million, even though it's not even fucking profitable. But they'll put me on the Forbes under 30 list because I made something. Dude, it is such a sham.
And then if your Series A or Series B has got a big name like Bill Ackman behind you, and Bill Ackman holds you out there, then you're launched off just because he's in. You use him as an anchor on the deal, and you do the thing. What's even crazy? This is known. This actually happened. There was 2 guys that literally wanted to start a business. They made up a business, completely bullshit, knew it wasn't even possible, just to get into Y Combinator. Y Combinator is what really pushes these people out to VCs. Think about it as like a mini boot camp for people who have great ideas, who are going to get connected to people. And Y Combinator will take you and put you in contact with all the big names in the space. Yeah. Right? They knew it was complete bullshit. They got in the door just to get the contacts to meet people, and then sold another bullshit idea because that one failed. And it catapulted them up. And they had the network of people around them, despite the fact they never really had a business idea. The idea was, we'll get to know the people, the business will come later.
One of the best things I did for my own self-belief or confidence, whatever you want to call it, in the last 5 years was joining this group of all these super high net worth.
What's this group? I mean,
it's Hampton. So you know who Sam Parr is?
No.
You guys know My First Million?
Oh yeah. I know him.
My First Million. He created The Hustle.
Yeah.
So he has a group called Hampton, and you have to be doing $3 to $5 million a year just to get into the group, right? So everyone's very successful, but most of everybody that's in there, 80% at least of that I've seen, are like VC guys and girls. Yeah. And I'm like, there's me in my group. I'm in a group of 12, so these subgroups in there, and we all
like mainly East Coast then.
There's a lot of East Coast, but there's a lot of West Coast people that are in there. My group is a lot of West Coast people.
San Francisco makes sense. Yeah.
So there's 12 of us in my mini group. It's huge, right? So lots of people in there, and you pay to have access to this group. We meet once a month, and it's been wonderful. I've gotten all kinds of business ideas. It's been great networking and all that stuff like that with these people, and I've built actually good relationships. And it gave me so much insight to that world, and it was so interesting to me because I was intimidated. Here I get into these meetings with 12 people, and we're all hearing, and I'm hearing like, yeah, we got a $100 million valuation, and I just did a series this, and I just got another $30 million for that. I'm like, damn, I'm over here doing my little, $10 to $15 million, and I'm just like this little small little guy. Like,
come on, man, you can't.
No, I'm serious. Like, you hear people throwing away numbers like 50, 100, $75 million. They're younger than me. I'm like one of the older guys. I'm like, damn, I feel like but I'm not doing it. I'm like, I admire it. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. This is cool. And then I start to find out as they share and we become friends. And then I find out all of them want what I have.
Yes, they all want what you have.
All of them are like, Adam, I would trade everything that I've done. And like, you have the most beautiful, amazing.
It's consistent. You have visibility, respect in the space, and you have
cash
more
flow.
Time than most of them will ever. Their jobs are incredibly stressful, and they're working around the clock for those valuations.
Yeah, stressful, no cash flow, doing something they're not really passionate about or love.
Incredibly lumpy when the money comes in.
Yeah.
If you get paid, you get paid. It's wonderful. If you don't, you're dry for years.
I had no idea. It was so good for me. It was such a good exercise. And it actually, talking about how we talked about my back half, like it really helped me. Like I was still in this pursuit of, I needed to prove myself. I needed to build something much bigger before I felt like I fully have arrived. But that thing made, I'm like, I fucking arrived, bro.
Yeah, dude.
That's how I felt after that. I was like, holy shit, all these people that are in Forbes, they all want my business. I'm like, I had no idea what a facade so much of that VC world really is.
It's not just that world. There's so many people that optically look wealthy and successful. And trust me, Saied and I see a lot of their finances. I mean, we underwrote loans for years.
Sure.
And when you look at them behind the scenes, you're like, oh my God, this person's like one bad month away.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You guys really get to pull the curtains back.
We do. And what's wild is the resilience that some of these people have. I mean, they've made it through good economies and bad economies, and you're like, how? Like, I don't understand where the money's coming. And it's just like a giant house of cards that could fall at any point in time. you talked a little earlier, but today about why I live so conservatively. I've seen this.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen it on so many levels. I'll tell you this much: I could lose my job tomorrow, and I could keep my lifestyle exactly the same.
Yeah, me too.
And that level of comfort, is priceless.
I know. I 100% agree with that, and I can't stress that enough. My wife's family wanted to celebrate when I bought the Ferrari. And we kind of got into it about it because I was like, no, we're not doing that. And
sounds like me.
And she was like, this is your insecurities around money coming back from childhood, and you should be proud of where you are in your life. And I get
the perspective.
Yeah,
but,
no, she had a good perspective.
Yeah,
but then I said to her, and she understood once I broke it down to her. I said, we're celebrating a materialistic thing.
Yeah.
And then it's also the wrong thing. I don't want my son, my nieces, my nephews to celebrate a Ferrari. And if you're going to celebrate me, then celebrate the fact that I could have bought that car 10 years ago, and I didn't. I delayed gratification. I invested in myself. I invested in real estate. I invested in companies. I delayed the gratification of wanting something like that because I've wanted that shit since I had posters of it when I was fucking 12. So I've wanted it my whole life, but I didn't do it because I wanted to set my family up. I wanted to set myself up. I wanted to be in a position where I could stop working and I could still have the lifestyle I want. That's what we should be celebrating, not a fucking car.
But we're not brought up in a culture that celebrates the incremental milestones along the way. We're brought up in a culture which celebrates the image of a milestone.
Yeah.
And that's what the material possessions tend to represent. I don't want to cut you off, but we got to get you to the airport. I know you have airport anxiety.
I do get airport anxiety. So, we'll do this again.
Thank you so much for coming down, brother. I missed you, man.
Thank you.
It's been too
We
long.
appreciate you, Adam. Thank you so
guys.
much, man.
Thank you guys.
All right, Chubby Jesus, take us out.
Good night, everybody.